Hey everyone, Tony here. Wanted to bring you another top gainer. Uh, I like these because these kind of give some fresh stocks to look at. So this one is Y10, uh, Yield10 Bioscience. And looking at the description here, it says Yield10 Bioscience Inc. is an agricultural bioscience company, engages in developing disruptive technologies for step-changing improvements in crop yield in the U.S. and Canada. So it sounds like it's almost like a Monsanto. I could be wrong, but that's basically what it is. This is the first time I see it. I just looked at the end of the day and saw that basically it popped today. Had almost 50, I believe 56% uh, daily gain, which is it's nice. It's really nice. So let's take a look at the weekly. So this one is obviously on a downtrend. So let's draw some horizontals here. Not horizontal, I'm sorry, trend lines here. And you can see that we have, on the charts, by the way, I have the 50 EMA. And I lowered this from 21 to 20 uh, EMA just because I'm liking it a little bit more. One period's not going to make or break anything, but it looks like it's a little more responsive for me. So I'm going to start using that for a little bit and see how that works out. So you can see here the trend line is basically, I mean, there's nothing, I mean, the price action itself is pretty much the trend line. I mean, this is, now granted, I am on a logarithmic scale, which I like because it normalizes my data and it's a little more, it's a little cleaner. If you don't do that, it looks like this monstrosity. So we have this pretty obvious downtrend here. And then I mean, ever since it's been pretty much poor. Um, let's go back to the log because I like that a little bit better. And let's delete that trend line and go back to the more recent um, price action. Now, this is kind of crazy because I believe it's had earnings. So it was, I mean, this is crazy. It had a negative 22-cent earning estimate. Um, estimate, actually, I'm sorry. Yeah. So estimates are negative 920, and it was a surprise of $8.98. But it was still negative, so I guess that's why everything kept dumping. So that was that. Again, another surprise of 98%. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at, 97%. Um, so it's kind of, again, I don't know much about this company, but it doesn't seem, it just doesn't make sense why that would make it keep dropping. So there's obviously something that I don't know in this particular case. I apologize. If you know more about this company, let me know. Um, just curious about it. That doesn't really compute in my head. Um, so we see here, I mean, on the monthly, there's really not much to say except that it's been on a freaking crazy downtrend ever since, let's see here, 2010, July 1st, 2010. So let's dig into the weekly. Let's go in here, and this gives us a little bit of a clear picture. There was a crazy wick down. This is crypto-ish. um, so you can see here actually that this fat finger being somebody that probably typed the wrong thing on the computer screen and sold for a crazy loss. Maybe instead of putting, what price were they at? Maybe instead of putting 500, they put 504. I don't know, but it's a fun level because now you see how that price got respected and basically marked the ultimate bottom. In this was last year in November, so kind of funny how that was used to mark that low. Um, so if you got in here, I mean, you're pretty happy right now, especially today that that popped. Um, so here I like, this is just an insane drop. So if we draw a Fibonacci here and we go, we don't even have to go to this high, which we could just to get an idea. So the 38.2 here would bring us to $22, which is, I mean, if there's any good news, which it sounds like there's something going on. I looked at the news and I couldn't really find anything. Um, So again, if you know of anything, let me know because it's a curious name now. So the 38.2 going from this swing high to the swing low, we're at a $14.63 range. Um, it's there's room to go. Um, so here we can see that if we draw this trend line from down here, as long as we don't break that low, we should be pretty good. So if you got in at one of these lows, I'd suggest you hold on until this breaks through. If it does break through, then I would, I would at least take some off, and definitely if it breaks this horizontal here, I would unload this position. Not financial advice. This is just a guy on YouTube talking. So hopefully, hopefully that doesn't draw any craziness towards me. Um, and then we see here that there's I mean, this is not really a proper trend line, but let's take that off. It's just going to muddy everything up. So we can see here that it's not looking bad. We have some price action here. This is a W. It broke from this little horizontal here. I guess you can say, some people would call it breaking that W there. Some people would say that it would be at that peak. This peak actually kind of makes sense because this 21 is 20, sorry. This 20 EMA is about to touch it, and it looks like it's at $20.40. That could be a target before rolling over and testing. So if we draw another Fibonacci from this swing low to this swing high, we can see that I can see that there would be a pullback, most likely to the 61.8, which would bring us from $10.50 right now to $7.50. I think that makes a lot of sense. It could even go all the way down to the 786, which would not break this trend line. Granted, if it happens in the next day or two, or maybe even three, probably a day or two. It could go as low as the 786. You could rebuy here, or just buy into this position if you're interested, and then ride that wave up. And then it would be your decision whether to use this trend line as your stop loss, or if you just want to keep the position. That would really be up to you. But it looks like it could, if it does break this $12.40 range, it looks like it could at least, at the very least, go up to 1463 and may even test the 618 between the 618 and the $25 range, which is the 786. So a target of, I mean, well, I'll give you a lot of numbers there, but at the very least, if it breaks above this 1240, I would say 1463, but a more likely target, in my point of view, would be between the basically $20 and $25. That would be a nice little sweet spot, and then I would expect it to probably roll over. The 50 is coming into that region, actually, which profit target, there's some confluence there. We can actually draw an ABCD here and see where that leads us. So that would bring us not too much higher, just under that 38.2 on the swing down. Let's see here. Let's go into the 1 day. So you can see this W a little more clear here. This gap eventually got filled in. Did it? Yep, pretty much got filled in there. There's no gaps at this point, but this price action looks pretty solid to me. Honestly, I see this being I don't see this being a bad trade. Now that we're in the daily, you know what? Let's roll back to the 1 week and look at the RSI and stochastic really quick. So we are, I mean, again, we were, for the longest time, we were in a downtrend, so we were below the 50 RSI. We did try to break over this 50 RSI and did briefly here in February of 2019, but then quickly rolled over again, and we've been kind of in this little section here. But now with this breakout, you can see actually some structure here pulling in. It's been quote unquote oversold in the stochastic. but that's rolling over as well. So we can see that it's well, rolling up, I should say. Um, so there's some room to go here should it decide to go in that direction. Now let's see the RSI. Let me bring this a little bit higher, and we could draw a well, not a downtrend, a trend line here. So once again, just like this price action, I would basically hold this accountable. We can even draw one coming from that high to that low, and you can see that it's going to test here. So that's actually another another way to kind of prove whether this is going to work out or not. Which actually kind of, if we decide to draw a trend line from here, actually here it wouldn't. No, I guess it would. Yeah, I don't like it on the weekly at least. But on the weekly, this RSI looks pretty promising. So we have to see what happens here in the next. Well, this is on a weekly, so it's going to take at the very least 1 or 2 weeks to see if it either bounces back down and we just keep playing in this little symmetrical triangle, or if we just break out of it and then bounce under it and then go to the 50, and then what happens at the 50. So there's a lot of questions. But if you're getting at this low, it's not a bad idea if you consult with your financial planner and you have, room, if you really want to kind of test this and see, or you believe in the company and you wanted to be in this position, you're at a near bottom. So I don't see why it's not a bad idea to at least go in small position and then just see how this all plays out. So let's go into the 1 day. Let's take these. Well, actually, we can leave it there. Do the 1 day. Yeah, let's take these suckers out. It's just going to confuse us. And then bring this back down and look at the price action again. So here, okay, here I would draw this a little bit, it's going to be a little cleaner. So we can even hold to this little symmetrical triangle-ish thing. So see what happens here. See if it bounces between this, if it breaks above it, if it respects it as a, so right now it is acting as resistance. Let's see if it's going to use it as support if it breaks through. Let's draw the trend line here on the RSI. So it's on a pretty decent little uptrend here. Right now it broke, pretty much today it broke over that, or the last 2 days broke over the 50 on the RSI. And there's been some horizontal. Yeah, so I would say that there's a decent little, so this level right here on the RSI we can use as resistance. So very interesting here on the daily. Let's see what happens in the next couple of days. Is it going to bounce between these two trend lines? And what happens? If it breaks above it, then there's a very good chance it's going to test at the very least 382 and maybe the 618 to the 786. If it breaks down, then maybe we're going to test this this trend line here and see what happens there. The stochastic, same thing, has room to go to basically roll up. I don't know why I keep wanting to say roll up, to go higher. So it's looking decent. Again, this is the first day I ever even hear about this stock, YTEN. Another thing that I like is looking at the insider buys. The president and CEO has been buying into this position since, so there was Jack Schuler, who's a 10% owner, March 14th last year, bought a sizable amount, 552,000 shares. And the president has been buying pretty consistently July, August, September, and twice in October. Each, not a crazy amount, but an average of about 10,000 shares per buy-in. So at least there's some confidence there. It's not looking bad. I'm going to look more into the stock and see if there's what. Let's just see what's going to happen with it. There's no way to prove anything. At least technically, it looks like there's some room to grow. The fundamentals will look completely terrible, but it's still not. It's still not in my. The only thing really in the fundamentals that really stands out to me is the president and some of the shareholders are actually buying into this. It's a pretty small company, only has 20 employees. Um, Profit per share, I believe it says 13.39. Got to look at this. Institutional transfers. It says that it has some upside to go with a target price. Again, a lot of this analysis, whoever these analysts are that give it a target price, I'm always suspect of it. But it says $32, a $32 target, which would bring us basically to up here. I mean, that's a pretty. It's possible, obviously. That's a horizontal region right here. It's possible if it keeps. Again, I want to see rolling up. I don't know why, but hey, that's a pretty decent. Actually, they say 32. Yeah, give or take, it's in that region. Again, these horizontals are not an actual price point; they're more of a general area, a zone. So seems kind of I can see how an analyst would come up with that horizontal as a target. But I wouldn't personally. I would say let's see how this goes. If it breaks above this RSI level here, then my first target would be 14, basically between $14 and $15. And if it's still on a powerful up move, then I could see it going to 2025, and then most likely seeing a slight pullback. The 200 EMA here on the daily is between the 618 and the 786 targets, so that's another positive that I'm seeing. Let me see here. I think this is still going to respect it, but let's try to, yeah, it's still looking at that. It's the same price target, so I don't even know why I did that. So I can see maybe a brief pullback that would not be terribly bearish, at the very least to the 382, which would be $9.30, give or take. Maybe coming down to the 687, which is that same 750, between 750 and $6, and maybe bouncing back up to this 382 between $14. And if it's a powerful move, again, sound like a broken record, but maybe $20 to $25 price range is good. And then if it breaks past that, maybe whoever this analyst is or whoever gives this target price of $32 is onto something. But hey, if you're buying in anywhere between $10 and lower, you're at an advantage over most people, and that would give you a pretty solid. Let's assume that it just you buy right now and you basically see if I can tweak this a little bit. If you risk down, why in the world? There we go. Let's say you want to buy here, and again, not advice, not a financial planner here, nothing of that sort. But let's say you want to risk to this ultimate low, and you want your price to be at your target to be at the 618. It's not what I would look for, and I would not risk this far personally. But if you risk there, you're at over 1.5, which is okay. This is where you want to be, at least at a 2 to 1. If you risk up to the 786, and so your target being the 786 level being $25, and you're risking to below the ultimate low of 448, you're looking at 438. You're still at a $2 risk reward, 2.4. That's almost 2.5. That's crazy. And what I would suggest is just kind of this trend line is, I would respect that trend line. Its price itself is respecting that trend line. So, you know what? Let's say that it breaks this price, has a crazy wick, breaks below this trend line, and then breaks below this tail and this tail. You're still below those. So you have three things protecting you. You have this trend line, you have this candle tail, so 2, and then another candle tail protecting you. So you're at that level. You can even risk all the way down here. And at that point, I mean, I would obviously say that it's at a pretty, I mean, I would just let it go at that point, the position, personally, not advice. And there you're at 2.78. If you were to risk a little bit higher, maybe around here, and then risk to that 786, you have almost a 3-to-1, which is beautiful. If you want to be a little more conservative, just go all the way down here to the 618, give or take, and that's a 2-to-1. I think that's, if I was gonna, I'm gonna look more into this. I'm not gonna say that I'm not gonna get into this position. I just need to learn more about it. But ideally, I would want to see that roll back down to the 618, let's say, give or take. So let's say it's at yeah, give or take. Risk to that amount right there. That would be what I would be comfortable with. And then, well, this would be at the 50% level, which 50% is actually a decent target. I mean, anybody, that would be a 5.24. That that is crazy. That is, um, obviously you can this can be drawn to the sky, and I mean 26, it's crazy. But you can see price has, I mean, we have a horizontal here that was tested for since December 2018 until September 2019. So almost a year that the price respected that area. Broke through, acted as support, and then broke down. So, best case scenario, I mean, that would be a 12-to-1. If you want to be super duper uber conservative, you go to that 50% and you're still at a 5. If you go down to a 382, you're at a 3.72. Personally, this little section here, right below this little, I guess this little resistance area or support area before breaking down, that would be a nice little sweet spot just before the 618, just before, just in case some investors decide to kind of dump before getting to that 618 level, which a lot of people do. If you go there, that's 6.48 risk reward, assuming that price comes back down, you get filled there, and you're risking to these levels. This would be my trade, how I would do it. I always like to go for the more, basically the higher the risk reward, the better, because you're putting your hard-earned money in, right? Why would you want to just go on a risky trade where you're risking 1-to-1 or less? It just doesn't make any sense. And I see a lot of people doing that, or doing something like this, where like, oh, I'm going to go in here and risk to this, let's say this little section here, or my profit is going to be at the 50 EMA in this case. So you're risking, your risk reward is 0.6. That means you're risking more than your profit. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Even when you're risking to 1-to-1. I see a lot of Forex people do this. And maybe it makes sense there. I don't trade Forex. I don't, I understand it. I just have never gotten into it. But that seems to be a pretty popular target for Forexers. But it's not my style. I don't like doing that. I prefer at least a 2-to-0 or more, 2-to-1. Sorry. It just makes sense. That means that I can lose. I'm terrible at math, but that means that I can approximately lose 5 trades and still be on the upside. Lose 5 trades and still be on the upside. I believe that's right. Could be wrong. I'll double check and get back to you. But anyways, I don't want this video to go too much longer. Let me just draw one last trend line here. Well, it's not really that exciting. I would just keep an eye on this. See how high this stochastic can go. See if what happens here with the RSI bouncing between these levels. Is it going to actually break above? Is it going to bounce between them? And breaking above would be amazing. And then, of course, the most important thing is price action. Price action, is it going to break above this trend line? And then is it going to use it as support? Is it going to break down? Is it going to break down below this? In which case, I would just, I would even, assuming that I got filled there, I would completely get out of my position. Once it got just below here, to me, it doesn't make any sense. Take your losses. which hopefully aren't too much. And move on to the next one. There's no craziness. You still have your portfolio. Do not, in my opinion, and again, consult your financial planner. Make sure you do your own research, but do not risk more than 1 or 2% of your full portfolio. So if you have $10,000, don't risk more than $100 or $200. It's just not worth it. That way you stay in the game. You can keep going. I know that a lot of people say the same thing, but it bears repeating. Um, don't go in. Don't put 50% of your portfolio in here, or in any stock, anything. You just never know. Um, I know it's tempting because it looks like easy money and quick money, and you may have gotten lucky several times where you've made money, and but it's luck runs out. Luck runs out, and it's just not worth it. Keep your risk to at least 1 or 2%. Some people say to go up to 4 or 5%. Um, I I think 1 or 2%, if you're consistent and you do the right thing and you learn your craft, um, you'll be profitable. You will be. Just don't go crazy. So, anyways, don't want to be a dad up in here, but yeah. So that was Y10 Yield10 Bioscience. Look into it before making any moves. And if you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully, this video makes sense. All right. Take care. Bye bye.